Hi, this is Stevie. Here's a pepper painting that I recently did where I applied the watercolor first and then added the line work afterward. So I decided to try it again. I only used 3 of the peppers in my painting this time, but this painting I did the same way. I applied the watercolor first without drawing and then added the ink. It didn't turn out as well as I would like it to have turned out. So then I moved on to painting it the other way, just sketching in the ink first and then applying the paint. But I can get a similar look by doing that, just by making it look a little looser. And that's what I want to demonstrate today. So I'm using the reference photo that I have in the upper left corner of the screen. I just didn't add the green pepper for sake of time, but I'm looking at the shapes. And when I do this drawing, I'm going to start with the shape that is most in front, and you'll see why as I get through it. So that would be the red pepper that's in front. So what I'm doing right now is marking with dots to just indicate or remind me where I'm going in that drawing. It's just a little trick, and even if you didn't connect all the dots, it wouldn't probably matter once you get some paint down. So I'm just going around, I'm looking at the photo as I draw. It's not a blind contour drawing. I'm just looking at the photo and trying to follow the shapes, noting where the pepper lays in the page. Then I'm making a very light mark there in the middle to indicate that dark indentation you see in the photo. Don't make it too dark or it'll look like it's split in half. Next, I move on to the pepper behind, and that pepper isn't touching anything else other than the red pepper, so I'm pretty safe in doing that next. I'm just doing the basic shapes. Now I'm moving on to that pepper on the left, the orange pepper, and notice how I went around the stem of the red pepper. And that's why you do the object that's in front first, because you don't want to have lines going through lines. Just doing the stem there. And I look at my drawing to see where the little marks are that I want to make for the little bumps around the stem. There's another line that marks an indentation in the pepper. There's one in each one, I guess. There's another line on that red pepper for another indentation. Now I'm picking up a number 6 brush. That is a Princeton Heritage brush. And notice how I flicked some water onto the paper. The paper was dry, but I wanted it wet in places so that I can get that color to run a little bit. So I flicked just some water on the page before I started adding color. And I'll start with the back pepper first, adding some Indian yellow. And I like Indian yellow because it's transparent. I could add some other yellow later on, but at this point I like the transparent color to keep my colors clean. Now I'm picking up some transparent orange to drop into that color. And the color is still wet because I flicked that water on. It's extra wet. And notice how I just lay down some of the color and I just leave it alone. I don't go back and forth, painting the strokes back and forth over it. I just let it blend together. Just let the watercolor do what it does. And that dropping in of color is just so pleasing to look at. Now, when I'm moving on to the red pepper, but as I look at that photo, I see some lighter color toward the bottom of the pepper, and that's what I'm getting in there now with the yellow and the orange before I add the red color. Now I'm adding some red color, and that is Anthraquinoid Scarlet. It's like cadmium red light. It's a little bit stronger than that because cad red light tends to really lighten after you put it down. I would say that red is a medium value. And I want to be careful to keep the highlight that you can see in the photo on that red pepper on the top of it. So I'm going to try to work around and keep a white highlight, just the white of the paper, as I paint around. Doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to look exactly like the photograph. Just filling in some areas. But again, see how nice that lighter yellow color looks blended in or dropped in with the red. Now I need to do a little more work on darkening that up, but right now what I'm doing is deliberately pulling out some of that color. I picked up some water on my brush. On the yellow part there, it had a hard edge that I didn't like. I like the color outside of the lines, but I just wanted to soften it a bit. So I look for those opportunities, and if you want your work to look looser, this is one way to do it. You don't have to let it get out of control with the water, but in certain spots you can let it bleed out outside of the lines, and it will give it a looser look. And later on, when I add shadows to those peppers, you'll see how nice that looks. It might look kind of crazy right now, and you might think, oh, it looks messy, but just wait until we're done. Now that red pepper is still wet, and I'm adding in some alizarin crimson now, just again referring to my photo for the darker areas. That indentation in the center of the pepper, I added that, and around the upper edge, and of course toward the bottom edge. Getting that color in. I try not to go over too many times after I lay down color. I like to keep it clean, and I like to get in and get out with as few strokes as possible. And that's what helps to keep your color clean. And I don't mind that some of that red is running into the yellow pepper behind it. I think that looks really nice. It could also even represent some reflected color. Now on to the third pepper, which is more orange, and I'm just starting with the yellow and adding some of the red to it. I think I mixed up some transparent orange with the red for that, and dropping that color in. Again, not blending it out too much, just let it go. Let the watercolor paint itself. Referring to the photo to see where my darker areas are, to add more color. Now as I get down to the edge of the pepper, which is really the top of it, later on I'll have to add more color there because it would be darker there. Anytime you have a form change when you're painting an object, there's going to be a value change too. So as the form goes around, it's going to go from dark to light, or light to dark depending on the light source. And that's what I'm always thinking about. That's what creates the shape in anything, is that form change and value change. And I really like how the dropped-in color looks rather than blending it all together as one solid color. It just creates or adds so much more interest to the painting. I have a little area at the bottom of that pepper that also bled out outside of the ink line, and I think I'm going to coax out a little more color there too. When I add the shadows, it looks really nice. This is a great little project if you're not used to just drawing with ink rather than using a pencil first. This is a great little subject to just practice your drawing skills and refer to your reference photo. Look at the direction that the objects are facing, each of them, and where they are in relation to each other. For example, that pepper, the orange pepper on the left, is a little lower than the pepper on the right. And if you go over that in your mind and even trace over those objects with your finger, you'll become very adept at it very quickly. So just take some scratch paper and practice drawing on that first. But it's not as hard as you might think. And on that orange pepper on the left, there's something that I forgot, and I had to add in later. I think I added it in already here, but I had forgotten to draw in that little green, the base of the stem. I don't know what that's called, but where I'm painting in some green now. I had forgotten to draw that in before, and you can't really even tell. I think I did cross some lines there, but you can't tell. And that dark green covers it up. Even if it didn't, I wouldn't really be concerned about it. It's such a small area. And I'm going to leave the reference photo for this project in my notes at the bottom of this video. So if you would like to try this out on your own, feel free to download or refer to that image and have a go at it. Just give it a try. Now I'm mixing up some shadow color, and that was a mix of manganese blue, which is a little bit lighter than cobalt, and also a little bit of permanent rose. And I like to use manganese blue in my shadows because it has a lot of green in it, and when I mix that with the permanent rose, it looks more gray than a cobalt blue would mixed with the permanent rose. So I use that quite a bit. And I went a little more to the blue side just because I didn't want it too purple for this painting. But that color looks really nice against these colors that are already on the paper. So I'm just referring to the photo for where my shadows go. And notice that I'm going right over the areas where I let the color bleed out. Like here's an example right here where I'm doing that orange. I'm painting the shadow on that orange pepper. Notice how I'm just going right over that color that's bled out beyond the line, and it looks really nice. I did that on the red pepper too. And I even go back and add a touch more of the orange color under the orange pepper. It's like reflective color in the shadow, and it just really looks good. Now what I'm doing after I've completed the peppers, so now I'm lining up where I want to put the lettering for the word peppers in there. And I just used my ruler to make a little line, and I'm just freehanding this. I don't know that I do a lot of lettering. I do have experience with calligraphy from many years ago, but I like to do lettering. I wish I did more of it, but I try to do it when I can in some of my paintings. And this lettering that I'm doing right here is kind of an adaptation from an alphabet that Lindsay Ostrom Waltman did. And if you don't know about Lindsay, she has a site on Facebook called Creative Lettering with Lindsay. And she has such wonderful items on there that she just gives away for free on lettering. She also has a really good book, several good books on lettering. And I've bought those books, and I like her style of lettering. It's far less formal than the calligraphy that I studied 40 years ago, but she has lots of alphabets that you can adapt to different situations, and I encourage you to go take a look at her Facebook page. She also has a YouTube channel. I don't really know how much is there because I don't look at it that often, but I think it's just under Lindsay Ostrom, Ostrom. So if you like to do lettering, take a look at Lindsay's sites. And so I finished my lettering. I penciled it in first, then used my Micron pen, which is a permanent pen. It won't bleed. And then I erased any of the leftover pencil. Now I'm spattering in some color because I thought that background looked pretty stark, that white background. So I just took the colors that I used already in the painting and spattered a little bit. And that spray bottle I'm using is my $1 spray bottle from Walmart. You get it at where they sell the travel supplies. And I love that little spray bottle. It works great. And so I wet the paper before I started to spatter, and then I even sprayed it a little bit after that just to kind of spread it out a bit. And I think I'm getting carried away here with the spattering, but I don't know. I think it'll be okay. It'll lighten up as it dries. Now, when I spattered, you won't see this here, I did dry the paper before I went back and colored in my lettering, just because that paper is really wet up where the word peppers is. Here I'm just picking up some black things that were on my paper. I think it was pieces of paint from one of my watercolor brushes, and just picking it up to get it off the paper. A little more spattering, and I think I'm going to dry it at this point, and then I'll get back to the lettering. And by the way, I have sped up this video quite a bit just so you don't get bored, but if you want to follow it more closely and slow it down, go up to the little gear that's in the top right of your screen and click on that, and then you'll see some options for the playback speed, so you can slow it way down if you want to try to follow it. So now I'm going in, coloring the letters, and what I did was I took a mix of my Indian yellow and my Hansa yellow, which is a little more opaque. I just wanted to get enough color on those letters. So I'm filling it in with the yellow, and then you see I picked up some of the red and just put it on the bottom part of each letter, and it runs a little bit, runs up into the yellow, but I like the look of that. It sort of looks like fire or something. So here they are side by side. The first one I did, and then the second one I did, where I did the ink work first. And of course I added the spattering, which makes it look different, but overall I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's nice and lively, and I like bright colors. Thanks for watching.